The stench hit the security guards first. 23 days of takeout containers, unwashed clothes, and despair had turned the corner office of Rossetti Industries into something that belonged in a landfill rather than a Manhattan skyscraper. The stench hit the security guards first. 23 days of takeout containers, unwashed clothes, and despair had turned the corner office of Rossetti Industries into something that belonged in a landfill rather than a Manhattan skyscraper. Victor Rossetti, once photographed on magazine covers as one of America's most eligible bachelors, now sat hunched over his mahogany desk in a wrinkled shirt that hadn't been changed in a week. His beard had grown wild and unkempt, his eyes were bloodshot from staring at computer screens and legal documents, and his breath could knock out a horse at 50 paces. Empty wine bottles lined his windowsill like soldiers, and pizza boxes were stacked so high they blocked his view of Central Park. The billionaire had barricaded himself inside his executive suite, refusing to let anyone enter, refusing all help, refusing to even acknowledge that the outside world existed. His ex-wife's lawyers were calling every hour, and his board members were threatening to remove him. His mother was flying in from Italy, but Victor just sat there, drowning in his own misery, convinced that his life was over and that no one could possibly understand the depth of his pain. 23 days. That's how long it had been since Isabelle walked out of their penthouse with her suitcases and her new boyfriend's arms around her shoulders. 23 days since she told him that his money couldn't buy her love anymore. 23 days since his perfect life crumbled like sand between his fingers. The divorce papers lay scattered across his desk, mixed with empty Chinese takeout containers and wine-stained contracts. Victor picked up one of the legal documents, his eyes scanning the words that would divide his billion-dollar empire in half. Community property, asset division, spousal support. Each phrase felt like a knife twisting in his chest. He stumbled to his private bathroom, catching his reflection in the mirror. The man staring back at him looked nothing like the confident CEO who had graced the cover of Fortune magazine just 2 months ago. His dark hair was greasy and disheveled. His designer shirt was wrinkled and stained with coffee. His brown eyes, which Isabelle once said reminded her of warm chocolate, now looked hollow and lifeless. "What's the point?" he whispered to his reflection. "What's the point of any of it?" The intercom buzzed again, making him flinch. His assistant's voice crackled through the speaker. "Mr. Rossetti, your mother called again. She's very worried about you. She's threatening to fly here from Naples if you don't answer your phone." Victor reached over and switched off the intercom system entirely. The silence that followed was deafening. Outside his floor-to-ceiling windows, Manhattan sparkled in the late afternoon sun. People were walking on the sidewalks 40 floors below, living their lives, going home to families who actually loved them. The thought made his stomach turn. Rel Washington pushed her cleaning cart down the empty hallway of the 42nd floor, humming softly to herself. At 68 years old, she had been working the night shift at Rossetti Industries for almost 12 years, and she knew every inch of this building better than she knew her own apartment. The late hours didn't bother her much anymore. After her husband Jerome passed away 10 years ago, the nights at home felt too quiet, too empty, at least here, surrounded by the gentle hum of computers and the soft glow of city lights. She felt useful. She had raised 3 children as a single mother before meeting Jerome, worked 2 jobs to put them all through college, and never complained about the long hours or aching feet. Rel believed in the dignity of honest work, no matter what kind of work it was. She took pride in making sure every office was spotless, every trash can empty, and every surface gleaming. The executives who worked in these fancy offices might never notice her, but she noticed everything about them. That's why she immediately knew something was wrong with Mr. Rossetti's office. For the past 3 weeks, there had been a memo posted on the cleaning schedule executive suite off limits until further notice. But Rel had been working here long enough to know that something didn't smell right about the whole situation. Mr. Rossetti was always polite to the cleaning staff, unlike some of the other executives. He remembered people's names, asked about their families, and always said thank you when she emptied his trash or watered his plants. Tonight, as she walked past his corner office, she could see light spilling out from under the door, and there was a smell, not a good smell. She paused, pressing her ear to the thick wooden door. Was that crying or maybe the television? Rel looked around the empty hallway. The other cleaning ladies were working on different floors. The security guard was making his rounds on the lower levels. She was completely alone. Before she could talk herself out of it, she knocked softly on the door. "Mr. Rossetti, were you all right in there?" The sound stopped immediately. For a long moment, there was complete silence. Then a rough, hoarse voice came through the door. "Go away." Rel frowned. That didn't sound like the confident, well-spoken man she had known for 12 years. This voice sounded broken, defeated. She knocked again, more gently this time. "Sir, it's Rel from the cleaning crew. I just wanted to make sure you were okay. You've been in there for quite a while," I said. "Go away." The voice was louder now, angry. "I don't need help. I don't need anything. Just leave me alone." But Rel Washington had raised 3 stubborn children and dealt with a husband who tried to drink away his problems after losing his job. She recognized pain when she heard it, and she had never been one to walk away from someone who was hurting. Even when they insisted they wanted to be left alone, instead of leaving, she sat down on the floor outside his office and opened her thermos of coffee. She always brought extra in case one of the KRHT guards wanted some during their long shifts. The hallway was quiet except for the soft hum of the air conditioning and the distant sound of traffic from the street below. "I'm not going anywhere," she said calmly, loud enough for him to hear through the door. "I'm just going to sit here and drink my coffee. You don't have to talk to me. But I'm not leaving you alone like this." There was another long silence. Then she heard movement, the sound of footsteps, and what might have been someone slumping against the door on the other side. "You don't understand," came the voice, quieter now. "You don't know what I've done. You don't know what kind of person I am." Rel took a sip of her coffee and settled more comfortably against the wall. "I know you're the kind of person who's sitting alone in an office for 3 weeks instead of asking for help when you need it. Honey, everybody needs help sometimes. My wife left me," the voice whispered so quietly she almost didn't hear it. "She took half of everything and left me for another man. She said I never really loved her. She said I was married to my work more than I was married to her." Rel nodded to herself. She had seen Mrs. Rossetti a few times when she came to the office for company parties. A beautiful woman, but always looking around like she was bored or searching for something more interesting. Rel sat down her coffee cup and leaned her head back against the wall. "Can I tell you something, Mr. Rossetti? When my Jerome died, I thought my world was ending too. We had been together for 18 years. He was my best friend, my partner, my everything. When the cancer took him, I didn't know how to be Rel without being Jerome's wife." She could hear he had stopped crying, that he was listening. "I spent about 6 months feeling sorry for myself," she continued. "I stopped taking care of myself. I stopped calling my children. I stopped doing anything except going to work and going home to cry. And you know what I learned during those 6 months?" "What?" The question came so softly she almost missed it. "I learned that we can't find ourselves by looking at what we've lost. We have to find ourselves by looking at what we still have to give. You're still breathing, Mr. Rossetti. You still have people who care about you. You still have the ability to make a difference in this world. That divorce doesn't change who you are at your core." There was a long pause. Then she heard the sound of the lock clicking and the door opened just a crack. She could see one brown eye peering out at her, and what she saw there made her heart hurt. This man looked like he hadn't slept or eaten properly in days. "Would you like some coffee?" she asked, holding up her thermos. "It's nothing fancy, just regular coffee, but it's hot and it's strong." The door opened a little wider, and she got her first full look at Victor Rossetti. His expensive suit was wrinkled and stained, his hair was a mess, his face was pale and gaunt, but when he looked at her, she saw something that hadn't been there before, a tiny spark of hope. "I would like that very much," he said quietly. "Thank you, Rel." And that was how Rel Washington, night shift cleaner and mother of 3, became the first person in 23 days to make Victor Rossetti remember that he was still human. The next night, Rel arrived at work with her usual cleaning supplies and something extra, a container of homemade soup and a sleeve of crackers. She had spent her afternoon off cooking, something she hadn't done much of since Jerome passed away. But the image of Mr. Rossetti's hollow cheeks and tired eyes had stayed with her all day. She knocked softly on his office door, which was now unlocked. "Mr. Rossetti, it's Rel. I brought you some dinner. Come in," came the reply, stronger than it had been the night before. Rel pushed open the door and nearly gasped. The office was still a disaster zone of empty containers and scattered papers. But Victor was sitting up straight at his desk, and he had clearly showered and changed clothes. His hair was combed back, and while he still looked exhausted, he looked human again. "You didn't have to bring me food," he said, but his eyes were fixed on the container in her hands with an expression that looked almost like hunger. "Of course, I didn't have to," Rel said, setting the soup down on his desk and clearing away some of the empty takeout boxes. "But I wanted to." "When's the last time you had a home-cooked meal?" Victor thought about it for a moment, his face growing sad. "I Scotch Belkush didn't cook much. We always ordered in or went to restaurants. Before that," he paused. "Before that, I guess it was when I visited my mother in Naples last Christmas." Rel opened the container, and the smell of chicken and vegetables filled the air. She had made extra, thinking that maybe sharing a meal would help both of them. Since Jerome died, she usually just heated up frozen dinners for one. "This smells incredible," Victor said, taking the spoon she offered him. "What is it?" "Just chicken soup," Rel said, settling into the chair across from his desk. "My grandmother's recipe. She always said that soup could cure anything that ailed you. From a broken heart to a broken leg." Victor took a tentative sip. Then another larger one, his eyes actually closed with pleasure. "This is the best thing I've tasted in months," he said, "maybe years." They ate in comfortable silence for a while, and Rel found herself studying this man she had known from a distance for so many years. Without the confident businessman mask, he looked younger, somehow more vulnerable. She could see why his wife's betrayal had hurt him so deeply. He was the kind of person who loved completely, even if he didn't always know how to show it. "Can I ask you something?" Victor said, finally, setting down his spoon. "Of course. Why are you being so kind to me? You don't really know me. For all you know, I deserved what happened with my marriage." Rel considered this question seriously. "Do you think you deserved it?" Victor was quiet for a long time. "I don't know," he said finally. "Maybe I did. I wasn't a very good husband. I was always working. I never asked her what she wanted or what would make her happy. I just assumed that providing for her financially was enough." "That doesn't sound like someone who deserved to be cheated on and abandoned," Rel said gently. "That sounds like someone who didn't know how to love properly because nobody ever taught him how." "My parents had a good marriage," Victor said defensively. "Did they? Or did they have a traditional marriage where your father worked and your mother took care of the house and children? That's different from a partnership." Victor stared at her for a moment, then laughed bitterly. "You're right. My father was never home. My mother ran the household like a business. They respected each other, but I don't think I ever saw them have a real conversation about anything except logistics." "So you modeled your marriage after what you knew," Rel said. "That doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you human." Over the following week, Rel fell into a routine. Every night when she arrived at work, she would stop by Victor's office with something: homemade bread, leftover casserole, fresh fruit, or just a cup of good coffee. They would talk while she cleaned his office, which she had finally convinced him to let her do. "You don't have to clean up after me," he had protested the first time she started collecting the empty containers and wine bottles. "Honey, this is my job," she had replied firmly, "and besides, nobody thinks clearly in a mess like this." As the days turned into weeks, Victor's office began to transform. The stacks of takeout containers and empty wine bottles disappeared, replaced by neatly organized files and potted plants that Rel had started bringing in to add a touch of life to this sterile space. Victor's own appearance improved as well. He started showering regularly, changing his clothes, and even attempting to comb his hair. He began answering some of his phone calls, though he still refused to see visitors or attend meetings. "My board is threatening to remove me," he told Rel one night while she dusted his bookshelf. "They say I'm having a breakdown and I'm not fit to run the company." "Are they wrong?" Rel asked, not unkindly. Victor considered this. "Probably not. I haven't been able to focus on anything except the divorce for weeks. I've missed important meetings, ignored critical decisions. The company is probably better off without me right now." "The company may be," Rel said, moving to water his plants, which were looking much healthier since she had started caring for them. "But what about you? What do you want?" "I don't know," Victor admitted. "I built this whole life around being successful, being important, being needed. Without that, I don't know who I am." Rel paused in her work and looked at him seriously. "You know what I see when I look at you?" "What?" "I see a man who tips the delivery drivers extra during the holidays. I see someone who remembers that the Sich guard's daughter is getting married and asks how the wedding planning is going. I see someone who donated $1 million to build a new wing at the children's hospital and didn't want his name on it." Victor stared at her. "How do you know about that, honey? I've been cleaning these offices for 12 years. I see the charitable donation records when you leave them on your desk. I hear you on the phone with your mother telling her you love her in Italian. I've watched you stay late to help your assistant when her son was having trouble in school." She smiled at him. "You think being a good businessman is all you are. But you're wrong. You're a good man who just forgot how to see it." That night, for the first time since she had started visiting him, Victor walked her to the elevator when her shift ended. "Rel," he said as the elevator arrived, "thank you for everything. You've saved my life these past few weeks." She patted his arm gently. "You would have saved yourself eventually. I just gave you a little reminder of who you really are." As the elevator doors closed, Rel saw Victor standing in the hallway looking more like himself than he had in weeks. And for the first time in a long time, she felt like maybe Jerome would be proud of the woman she had become without him. 2 weeks later, Victor was waiting for Rel when she arrived for her shift. He had spent the day in actual meetings, wearing a real suit, and had even managed to make some important business decisions without falling apart. But the best part of his day was still the evening when he could talk to the one person who seemed to understand him. "Good evening, Rel," he said, opening his office door before she could knock. "How was your day off?" "It was nice," she said, smiling at the sight of him looking so much more like himself. "I visited my daughter and helped her with some wedding planning." "What about you? You look like you actually left this office today." "I did," Victor said proudly. "I attended a board meeting, reviewed 3 contracts, and even had lunch with a client. My assistant nearly fainted when I walked into the conference room." Rel laughed, a warm sound that made something in Victor's chest feel lighter. "I'm proud of you. That must have been hard." "It was," he admitted, helping her move her cleaning cart into his office. "But you were right. I can't hide in here forever. The company needs leadership. and whether I like it or not, I'm still the CEO. As they sat in his clean, organized office, Victor found himself looking at Rel with new eyes. Over the past month, this woman had shown him more genuine kindness than he had received from anyone else in years. She asked about his day, not because she had to, but because she actually cared about the answer. She brought him food, not because he paid her to, but because she was worried about his health. She listened to his problems without judgment and offered advice without trying to fix him. Rel, he said suddenly, can I ask you something personal? She looked up from watering his plants. Sure. Why did you never remarry after your husband died? You're an amazing woman. I'm sure there were men who would have been lucky to have you. Rel was quiet for a moment, considering her answer. There were a few who asked. She said finally, but I guess I never found anyone who loved me for the right reasons. Jerome loved me because I made him laugh, because I challenged him to be better, because we were partners and everything. The men I met after he died seemed to want someone to take care of them, or someone to take care of their children, or someone to fill a lonely space in their lives. She paused, moving to dust his bookshelf. I'd rather be alone and loved by my children and grandchildren than be with someone who doesn't see my real value. Victor nodded slowly. That makes sense. Isaac Beluch used to say that I didn't see her real value either. I thought providing for her financially and giving her a beautiful home was enough. But you wanted a partner, not a provider. What do you want now? Rel asked gently. I want to be the kind of man who deserves a partner like that. Victor said without hesitation. I want to be someone who asks how your day was and actually listens to the answer. I want to be someone who shows up when people need me, not just when it's convenient for my schedule. Rel smiled at him, and Victor felt something he hadn't experienced in months. Genuine happiness. You know, he said, an idea forming in his mind. I've been thinking about making some changes to the company. We have all this money sitting in accounts earning interest, but not really helping anyone. What if we started a foundation? Something that could make a real difference in people's lives. That sounds wonderful, Rel said, her face lighting up with enthusiasm. What kind of foundation? I was thinking about education. Maybe scholarships for kids whose parents work multiple jobs like you did when you were raising your children, or job training programs for people who want to learn new skills but can't afford the classes. Rel stopped dusting and turned to face him fully. Victor, that's a beautiful idea. You could help so many families. The way she said his name with such warmth and pride made his heart skip a beat. When was the last time someone had spoken to him like that? When was the last time someone had looked at him the way Rel was looking at him now? Like he was capable of doing something truly worthwhile. Would you help me? He asked impulsively. With a foundation, I mean, you understand what working families need better than I do. You could help me make sure we're actually helping people instead of just throwing money at problems. I would be honored, Rel said, and Victor could see that she meant it. But I should probably mention that I don't know anything about running a foundation or working with that kind of money. I don't either, Victor admitted, but I know how to learn. And I know how to hire good people to teach us what we don't know. The important thing is that we understand why we're doing it. They spent the rest of the evening brainstorming ideas for the foundation, and Victor found himself more excited about work than he had been in years. Not because of the money or the power or the recognition, but because of the possibility of actually making a difference. Rel, he said as she was preparing to leave, would you like to have dinner sometime? I mean a real dinner, not just soup in my office. I'd like to take you somewhere nice to thank you for everything you've done for me. She paused, and for a moment, Victor worried he had overstepped. But then she smiled. I would like that very much, but only if you promise it's not just about thanking me. What do you mean? I mean, I hope you're asking because you enjoy my company, not because you feel obligated to repay a debt. Victor felt his heart speed up. I'm asking because talking to you is the best part of my day. I'm asking because I want to know more about you and I want you to know more about me. I'm asking because, he paused, gathering his courage. Because I care about you, Rel, more than I probably should. Her smile was radiant. In that case, yes, I would love to have dinner with you. Victor spent the entire next day planning their dinner. He had eaten at the finest restaurants in New York, Paris, and Rome, but choosing the right place for Rel felt more important than any business dinner he had ever arranged. It needed to be somewhere special, but not intimidating, elegant, but warm. The kind of place where they could talk without feeling like they were being watched. He finally decided on a small Italian restaurant in Little Italy, the kind of family-owned place that reminded him of his childhood visits to his grandmother in Naples. The food was exceptional, but the atmosphere was comfortable, and the owner, Marco, had been a friend of his father's for many years. When Saturday evening arrived, Victor found himself more nervous than he had been before any board meeting or business presentation. He changed clothes 3 times before settling on a navy blazer and khakis, wanting to look nice without being too formal. As he drove to pick up Rel at her apartment in Queens, he realized his hands were actually shaking slightly on the steering wheel. Rel lived in a modest 2-bedroom apartment in a well-maintained building. When she opened the door, Victor's breath caught in his throat. She was wearing a simple navy blue dress with a pearl necklace, and she looked absolutely beautiful. But more than that, she looked happy and excited, and seeing her smile made all his nervousness melt away. "You look stunning," he said, offering her his arm. "Thank you," she said, blushing slightly. "You clean up pretty well yourself." The drive to the restaurant was filled with comfortable conversation about her week and his progress with the foundation. Victor found himself relaxing completely in her presence, something that hadn't happened with anyone else in years. Marco greeted them at the door with enthusiastic Italian and warm hugs for Victor. "Ah, Victor," he said, "you look much better than the last time I saw you." "And who is this beautiful lady?" "Marco, this is Rel Washington," Victor said proudly. "Rel, this is Marco Battaglia. His family has owned this restaurant for 40 years. "Welcome, welcome," Marco said, taking Rel's hand and kissing it gallantly. "Any friend of Victor's is family here. Come, I have the perfect table for you." He led them to a quiet corner table with candles and fresh flowers where they could see the bustling kitchen but still have privacy for conversation. The whole restaurant felt alive with the sounds of families enjoying their meals and the rich aromas of garlic, tomatoes, and fresh bread. "This place is wonderful," Rel said, looking around with genuine delight. "It feels like someone's home." "That's exactly what Marco intended," Victor said. His grandmother started cooking for neighborhood families in her apartment, and it just grew from there. 3 generations later, they're still using her recipes. Marco returned with a bottle of wine and an array of appetizers. "From the family," he said with a wink. "The lady must try my grandmother's meatballs and my mother's bruschetta. Victor, you know these are your favorites." As they sampled the food and talked, Victor found himself telling Raoul stories about his childhood that he had never shared with anyone, not even Ezat Belach. He told her about learning to cook with his Italian grandmother, about the summer he spent working in his father's construction crew to learn the business from the ground up, about his dreams of traveling the world to teach English to children who couldn't afford school. "You should do that," Rel said when he mentioned the teaching dream again. "Maybe through your foundation you could create educational programs in developing countries." "You really think I could?" Victor asked. "I mean, I have no experience with international development or anything like that."